There is an old Irish proverb that says, "It is in the shelter of each other that the people live." I think of that proverb these days as so many of us are feeling deeply unsettled. We live in a time of rising anti-Semitism, volatile political rhetoric from every side, from the left, from the right. I've even seen it from the centrists. Regardless of how we view these questions, the objective reality is that attacks on the dignity and safety of transgender and non-binary people have increased. Regardless of what we believe, objectively, immigration policies have tightened, and enforcement has reached levels some have described as dehumanizing. There is growing economic concern with instability coming from the tariff wars. Each of these crises touches us, some of us directly, some through the people we love, all of us as a community. And I want to begin by simply acknowledging it does not matter if you consider yourself a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, or even refuse to wear a political label. If you are feeling afraid, anxious, angry, or numb, you are not alone. We are not alone in our fear, and we are not alone in our tradition. Our ancestors knew instability well. The very word Yisrael means one who wrestles with God, a name given to Jacob after a long night of struggle. That night he was about to face his brother Esau, from whom he had fled many years before. He didn't know if Esau would embrace him or kill him. He was filled with uncertainty and fear, but he stayed and he wrestled through the night. And come morning, he carried with him two reminders of that struggle. He walked that day forward with a limp, but he also carried with him a blessing. My friends, we too are wrestling with our place in this country, with what it means to be Jewish today, with how to protect one another. Like Jacob, we may not come through this unscathed. We do not yet know the full extent of the scars and damage that we may carry into the future. But there can still, like Jacob, be a blessing in that struggle. Let us spend just a moment considering four of the struggles facing our community. First, anti-Semitism. Second, immigration. Third, the attack on gender identity. And finally, political and economic uncertainty. As I suggested last week, the rise in anti-Semitism today is not just frightening, it is re-traumatizing. We need but to reflect on the horrific murders in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night to know this. It awakens deep, deep generational memories of persecution, of expulsion, and worse. But Jewish memory is not passive nostalgia. It is an active moral force. In the Torah, over and over again, we say, Zachor, remember. We remember the bitterness of slavery in Egypt. We remember the Inquisition. We remember Kristallnacht. We remember the chimneys. And we remember the Nova Festival. And we remember Washington, D.C. We are like Jacob, who carried the pain of his struggles for the rest of his life. But like Jacob, we have a blessing. One is that our eyes are opened, as Jacob's were when he wrestled with the stranger. We will not go quietly in the night ever again. We will stand up and we will say, never again. But if we are true to our historic selves, we will do all we can to protect others in danger as well. And that's the second issue, immigration. Each time we gather in prayer, each time we recite Kiddush, we remember, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So when immigrants and refugees are threatened or turned away, we must speak out, not in spite of our Jewishness, but because of it. Now let me pause and offer a partial disclaimer. And I'm guessing at least some of you, have struggled with the question of illegal immigration. Many, if not most, of our ancestors came here to this country legally. They followed the rules, and they eventually became citizens. 3 of my grandparents did. 1 of my great-grandparents. I believe that our rules should be followed. And yet when refugees, those who hope to come in, are people whose lives are in danger, how do we not welcome them? How do we allow a modern version of the SS St. Louis to be turned away from our shores today? Rather, isn't what we want for ourselves our obligation for them? To embrace them, to support them, to protect them? Third, gender identity. There's a teaching in the Mishnah that every human being is created b'tselem Elohim, in the very image of God, and that all of us are created from the same ancestor, that we're all related. In this moment when transgender and gender nonconforming people are under attack, we affirm this core truth of our tradition. Every person is a reflection of the divine. Every person deserves dignity, affirmation, and safety. Can we legitimately debate at what age a child is able to decide their gender path? Absolutely. Can we legitimately struggle with the question of trans athletes and how we preserve dignity and privacy for all in bathrooms? Yes. But remember, the Talmud teaches that embarrassing someone in public is like shedding blood. What then do we owe those who are treated as other? What do we owe them? Affirmation, confirmation, compassion, presence, protection. And finally, political and economic uncertainty. Do you know what Beth Am's biblical motto is? It comes from Micah 6:8, and I wear it on my wrist to remind me every single day to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. These words do not change depending on who's in power or how stable our economy is. Even in a world of economic hardship, we are taught to leave the corner of our fields for the poor. That is, to build an economy with justice baked into it. So while we struggle with what the economy will do to us, do we have a job? Will we have a job? We are not powerless. We are commanded to shape a society rooted in compassion. We may not be able to fix everything, but we can feed one other person. We can volunteer and show up for the marginalized, the un- and underhoused, the hungry in our neighborhoods. We can help one person find a job, and we can build support networks that reflect our highest values. Pirkei Avot, we're taught you're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. Like Jacob, we know what we have to do. We struggle, we wear our scars, we may even limp forward, but we do not stop struggling. We call our elected officials, we form community safety teams, we show up for rallies and vigils, we make meals for those in need, we teach our children and grandchildren the beauty of our tradition's insistence on justice, on tzedek. We link arms, we open our homes, we listen deeply, to one another. But there is one more thing. For Jacob not only struggled, he received a blessing. And what is our blessing? Our blessing is each other. To quote a writer, Alan Seal, how we choose to be with one another, the level and quality of respect and care we show for one another, shapes everything about our present and our future. Remember the Irish proverb with which I began? It is in the shelter of each other that the people live. It is in the shelter of each other that the people live. Again, quoting Alan Seals, in today's common parlance, we define shelter as a place of care, protection, safety, and nurturing. As the word shelter is used in this proverb, it also means presence, interconnection, and interdependence. It is the presence of each other, the interdependence or interconnection with each other, that we, the people, live. In other words, our lives have meaning only when they are interconnected with one another. As a Hasidic tale says, we cannot sit in a synagogue and pray next to each other if we do not know how each other is doing. Are your pew mates struggling? Is the person next to you worried or ill? To be created B'Tselem Elohim means to know how those in our community are doing. And so, last week I talked about how to help others. The sermon is online. I encourage you to see the possibilities there. But tonight, as we talk about our own struggles, our own fears, our own sense of insecurity, let's spend some energy finding out how one another is doing. Let us become each other's shelter. As Beth Am did during COVID, we are initiating a project to call every single household in our community. That is over 1,200 phone calls. Our purpose is to let every household know that Beth Am cares, that Beth Am is and will be there in times of struggle and in times of blessing. We imagine that many in our community are feeling troubled or anxious amidst all the destabilizing events in the news lately. And so we will be calling in to check in and just see how everyone's doing. We will become each other's shelter. And so, here is what I'm going to ask of you. Please, right now, take out your cell phones. Please, take them out. Take them out, open your cameras, and take a picture of the QR codes on the screen. Go ahead. If not, you'll get it in the mail. You're getting the emails, but please do this. It will take you to a form that we hope you will fill out and that you will volunteer to call some of our households. Make just 10 calls. If 100 of you sitting here would do that, we would touch 1,000 of our families. Now, we don't expect to reach everyone, but we hope we can at least leave messages for everyone to let them know that Beth Am cares. That Beth Am is one of their shelters from life's storms. Please, I beg of you, please, be our partner in this sacred endeavor. May we be the blessing to the struggles our families may be experiencing. Now, on the website that you go to, I'll explain it all. It's not as scary as it seems. We'll give you scripts. It's all good. But please volunteer. In this week's Torah portion, we're reminded that God journeys with our people through the wilderness. Not from a palace or a throne, but it says in a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. God's presence dwells, it says, in the midst of the people. In the same way, our strength is found not in isolation, but in each other, in our shared stories, in our collective voice, in our sacred obligation to stand up for one another boldly, but perhaps most importantly, in seeing one another fully, to be our neighbor's shelter in these uncertain times. And may we remember, it is in the shelter of each other that we live. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to ask my colleagues to